Hi guys, Tommy Mays here. So I I wasn't planning on having this as a topic, but after reading all the comments on Reddit and from my last video, I felt like it was necessary. I'm not really surprised by the reaction, as I realize that this is a very sensitive subject for a lot of people. But I think that many people misunderstood my opinion on the subject. I'm a little new to making these videos, guys, and I'm learning quickly that I should put my opinion and where I stand at the start of the video instead of at the end. So, as a quick and hopefully clear recap, this is how I feel on some of the hybrid class damage specs in Raid. Okay, so I believe that hybrid class damage spec numbers shouldn't be tuned up because that could affect other aspects of the game that already are that the class already excels at. But I do believe that their utility buffs to their group could be improved to make them a more valuable asset to their group or their raid. Now, guys, I'm a big fan of how Blizzard handled this in TBC. I think they ironed out a lot of the vanilla bumps, even though it implemented other aspects that I think took away from the overall WoW experience. But you know what? I'm just going to leave that for another video. What I will say is this: I am a huge fan of TBC, and I will definitely be playing a classic TBC server if Blizzard ever opens that option to us. But the main point I was trying to get across in my last video was that these specs do have a place in the game. And until I know who the classic WoW development team is, and I decide that I trust them, I'm a little bit wary of what they want to do, and I'm a little bit skeptical of the balance of them doing balance changes and via tweaking numbers and etc. So I get that not everyone agrees, but I believe that the risks outweigh the benefit. What I don't think I mentioned was that I think I would be okay with some of the hybrid specs having some deep talent points to improve their auras or their totems and debuffs. You know, within reason, of course, not nothing too crazy, but just make them just a little help. And you know, most of the comments weren't about this, however. You know, instead they were arguing about spec viability and telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, and that specs were in a no way viable, which brings me to the title of this video: viable versus optimal. And I know it's a bit ridiculous, but after reading all the comments from my last video, I got the feeling that that a lot of the people confuse the two. So viable is capable of working successfully, feasible, and optimal is best or most favorable, optimum. So in my opinion, every class has an optimal rating spec, and every class in the game has a reason to be brought to a raid, which to me says that there is some kind of class balance in raids. You know, I can't think of a time in WoW when every spec for a class was optimal for raids. Some of the hybrid damage specs are optimal for things other than raiding, like leveling. So I believe that every spec that isn't trying to be bad by intentionally putting points in dumb spots is viable in raids, other than maybe a prop paladin who wants to main tank, which I don't think that should be viable, since that would give Alliance 3 tanks and Horde only 2. If I was going to make my own version of vanilla, I would definitely include some of the changes and additions that were brought in TBC, because I feel like TBC is a good version of it. I personally think that many of the specs in question are fun, and I do enjoy playing them. But even though I think that they are raid viable, I wouldn't necessarily play one in a raid because I would prefer to go with the optimal choice. So I main a paladin in WoW, and I see it as a support class. You know, and it's fun. You know, like I like to role play with people. You know, as the High Lord of the Paladin, paladins. You know, wielding the one and only Ashbringer in Legion on the World of Warcraft forums. You know, I think that's a lot of fun. I still think of Ret as a support spec. I mean, it is. You know, sure, it's not supposed to be a one-man hero of the Alliance. It's really not. you know, it's pretty neat when you meet one in vanilla who just doesn't tunnel vision whoever they're trying to kill, and takes times to clear CC and freedoms other players who you know other than himself. And I get that there are many out there with this idea that when they spec ret that they're now a pure DPS, but that's just not how vanilla is designed. This goes for many of the hybrid damage specs. You know, in my last video, I said that you should play what you're going to enjoy, and I want to clarify and explain that these hybrid specs, these hybrid damage specs in vanilla, don't mean that you will only be doing damage. Okay, almost every ability in vanilla is useful, and to be skilled at your class and spec, that means that you're using everything to its fullest. This means that as a hybrid damage spec, sometimes you will still be using your heals and debuff removal to save people. You know, I don't recommend going into vanilla and playing one of these specs with the mindset of, oh, fuck you, I'm not healing. You know, if that's how you feel, I just suggest playing a pure DPS. You know, think of it this way. You know, you guys are playing, we're all playing a class, not a spec, you know? A spec is just a way for you to improve certain abilities that you like. You should still use all the weapons that you have in your arsenal. You know, if more paladins went into this game with the mindset of a support and understood how strong of a toolkit that they have to help others, you know, I really think they wouldn't be as loud on forums for changes to damage. You know, I understand that the lore behind the paladins also, you know, I played Warcraft 3 myself, you know, I understand that they were a hero in Warcraft 3, just Blizzard put them in as more of a peasant in vanilla. I just have to say it. It's like more of an origin story. You know, you come to terms with that and just move on. But you know what? Like everybody's a peasant in vanilla, and I think that's why it's so much fun. Is you're a peasant and you group with other random peasants, and you're all happy to encounter each other. You know, I enjoy being, you know, the class that can watch some random noob die from pulling 3 mobs and then they come in and save them, either by healing them or resing them, and while spewing some really cringy roleplay shit at them, and just saving them. And I can tell them, you know, a paladin lesson of wisdom of not pulling two or three mobs at a time. But as a support, it is easier to engage with the players around you, and in the process, you end up with some pretty memorable stories and some pretty good friends. You know, to me, the playstyle of Ret is similar to Holy in Vanilla or Classic WoW, and if you used in a skillful way, it can be a lot stronger than many scrubs out there seem to think. You know, as long as the spec is viable, that's good enough for me. I'm a hybrid class player, and I understand that I'm a support class. I'm usually Holy spec because I understand that it is the most optimal spec for grouping as a paladin. But other specs are fun for me from time to time, and I still, like to this day, switch around and enjoy them for the different things that they have to offer. You know, hopefully this cleared up where I stand on the issue a bit, and you know, I'm sorry I tried to make this more concise, but I just can't help it, man. I'm a ranter. Thanks for watching.